On Chicago's North Shore, a contentious primary. A seasoned politician battles a state lawmaker for a rarely open seat in Congress. Could a crowded field and a dark money super PAC play spoiler? Tonight, we get to the point.
From Chicago's very own, with WGN political editor Taman Bradley, this is The Point.
Good evening. Let's dive right in. It's one of the most contentious local contests this season. To Illinois 9 we go. The 9th District stretches from Chicago's north side, up along the North Shore, all the way west out to Cary and Algonquin. Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky's retirement after 14 terms paved the way for this super competitive Democratic primary. It's a safe blue seat, so several candidates are asserting their progressive bona fides.
People right now really want somebody who's got a reputation of standing up to the bullies, being able to stand up to the insurance industry and win, corporate polluters and win, somebody who's 100% pro-choice.
I'm so proud of the progressive record that I've managed to accomplish, both in Springfield and as mayor of Evanston. Think about it, the last 4.5 years as mayor, we've implemented municipal reparations, first and only of its kind in the country, passed the strongest climate ordinance of any municipality in the Midwest by far, done path-breaking work on housing, affordability, addressing homelessness, public safety reform.
In the packed field, a top tier has emerged based on fundraising and polling. Two of the frontrunners are State Senator Laura Fine and Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss, and they're going at each other hard.
I would say I'm a doer and he's a talker.
Laura Fine has more money from Donald Trump donors than from this district last quarter.
Fine and Biss are both Jewish, and divisions among Democrats over U.S. support for Israel is in the spotlight. A dark money super PAC called Elect Chicago Women is spending big in support of Fine. The group is reportedly backed by the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, known as AIPAC. Some of AIPAC's top backers have been major donors to Donald Trump.
I'm proud to have support locally from people who share the values of our community. And my principal opponents have most of their money from out of state. Laura Fine has more money from Donald Trump donors than from this district. And that makes you wonder who she's going to answer to.
I have a handful of donors that are bipartisan, and I think it's about 3% of all my donations come from those bipartisan voters or donors. And what I will say is anybody who is donating to my campaign is donating to somebody who's for Medicare for all, who's stood up to corporate polluters, who stood up to the insurance industry.
Biss and Fine are sparring over more than just donors. Biss supports legislation to block the president from selling or exporting the most destructive offensive weapons systems to Israel.
And what we have learned for years is that the U.S. is not going to effectuate the outcomes that are consistent with U.S. policy and international law if we just politely ask for something different. We have to use the tools at our disposal, the economic power, the diplomatic techniques to push for change. Of course, Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish democratic state and to defend itself. This is important to me. I have a lot of extended family in Israel. My mother grew up there. I spent summers there as a child. And equally important is the right of Palestinians to self-determination and dignity, for the right of two states for two peoples side by side.
I am for a two-state solution. I think what the U.S. needs to do right now is step up to make sure we're bringing in humanitarian aid.
Well, the veteran lawmakers duke it out.
I love comics, so we wanted to...
Is this you?
That.
Oh,
yeah,
that
that's
is
me.
you.
We
Yeah.
had
a Gen Z progressive influencer is using new media to raise millions.
It's not that young people don't vote. I think we don't give them anything to vote for. And our political establishment has kind of thought of people who aren't likely primary voters as worth reaching out to in the first place. So we not only want to reach out to all primary voters, but we make sure we're in their spaces as well.
Kat Abu Ghazaleh has at times thumbed her nose at old school journalists. She sent a spokesperson to a candidate meeting with the Chicago Tribune editorial board.
Yeah, so this is our campaign office.
Her message is change.
I believe that everyone deserves to afford housing, groceries, and health care with money left over to save and spend. I believe that everyone deserves equal rights. And I believe that everyone deserves a better future that isn't defined by Trump's secret police. I am the candidate in this race that has been consistently standing on the front lines and putting my body on the line against this administration.
Several more candidates are trying to stand out in the crowded contest. State Senator Mike Simmons is on the attack.
As someone who grew up here, I don't like those donors drowning out voices like mine and the voices of communities in the 9th District, like immigrants, like those that have been targeted by ICE, like those that are feeling the pinch of affordability by donors who put ICE on our streets.
State Representative Han Wen is also giving up his seat in Springfield to compete. His confrontation with federal agents in Chicago last October made headlines.
The U.S. Customs and Border Patrol.
I'm State Representative Han
There's 3 agents behind us.
They put a loaded gun to the face of an elected official.
Wen has raised a significant amount of cash, but hasn't been able to break into the top 5 in recent polls.
If you don't find people running for Congress that have non-political backgrounds.
And Phil Andrew, a former FBI agent who worked as a hostage negotiator, hopes to offer voters something different.
My wife and I, as we looked at this field forming, we were disappointed because we saw politics as usual. We saw what has been all the worst things about Illinois politics stepping into this critical moment when we need real leadership.
Up next, we're headed to Evanston to go inside a reporter's notebook. We're back in 60 seconds. In the Democratic race for Illinois' 9th Congressional District, candidates are fighting for each and every vote ahead of Election Day. We met up with a local reporter, Matthew Eady, who has been covering the candidates from day one. Matthew, you are killing it. Your stuff is great. We see it on social media, your articles. Great job.
Appreciate it. Trying my best.
To help us understand the 9th District Democratic primary, we visited an Evanston staple, Firehouse Grill, for a chat with Matthew Eady, a reporter with Evanston Now. I want to talk about the top tier. First of all, who was Kat Abu-Ghazaleh before this contest?
Medicare is absolutely necessary and we should protect it. But
she started her career in D.C. She was a journalist working for Media Matters, kind of covering Tucker Carlson, Fox News. That was really her main focus. She was, on social media a lot, YouTube videos, live streams. She's that new wave of online independent media figures who are trying to make waves in the Democratic Party and on the left.
How do you think she's received among older voters, reliable primary voters?
Yeah, that's the question of this entire race. She is undoubtedly focusing on low propensity, low turnout voters, younger voters, some people who have never voted before. Her campaign is focused on mutual aid. She does live stream, playing video games on live streams for multiple hours, trying to raise money and talking about the issues. Older voters are not watching her play Dungeons and Dragons on Discord at 7 p.m. at night. But she is trying to prove herself to older voters.
What we need in Congress now is a fighter.
It seemed like Dan Biss started this contest with advantages, his name ID, for example. Is that your sense that he sort of started ahead of the pack?
Yeah, there's no doubt Daniel Biss was the front runner from the beginning. There is no doubt there's competition. It wasn't a runaway, and I think he's realized himself that it's not something, despite a lot of endorsements and the backing of Jen Schakowsky herself, this is something he has to work for. But like you said, he's well known in the community. He's the only candidate in this race who's been on the ballot statewide when he ran for governor in 2018. But he's also represented portions of this district pretty much nonstop since 2010. So the question is, are people still interested in sending him to Washington? Do they want something totally different? That's the question that we're going to have to wait and see.
Laura Fine has been around a while as a state representative and a state senator. What has she accomplished in Springfield that she's sort of talking about in this race?
She has a 13-year record in Springfield. She's, widely regarded in Springfield. She is running on that record and saying, look, I've been around, I'm not the flashiest candidate in this race. I'm maybe not out on the streets protesting with some of these other candidates that are doing that. But look to my record in Springfield. There's a lot of people in this community who probably like the idea of a, legislator who's going to go to Washington and do what they did in Springfield, maybe not make a ton of noise.
There's a lot of money in this contest. AIPAC is now making a play to try to boost Fine. What impact is that having?
I think that is going to have a huge impact. AIPAC attack ads are coming. They are very likely going to start in the coming weeks. AIPAC's support of Laura Fine has been undeniable since August.
We've talked a lot about the front runners. Who else should we be focused on? Is there a chance for an upset?
I think it's probably unlikely, but it's not impossible. I would say look at Phil Andrew, who is a survivor of the Lori Dan shooting in Wilmette. He's well-known in his community. And then there's also people like Bushra Amiwala, a Skokie School Board candidate who's been in this community for a long time. And then State Senator Mike Simmons as well. There's no doubt that he is beloved in Rogers Park. People know him very well. He's one of the most progressive people in Springfield. As we approach these next couple of weeks before Election Day, what we're going to see is a real focus on candidates trying to say, like, I know we might look like we agree on all the policies. We're all these progressive Democrats who agree on Medicare for all or agree on minimum wage increase, but there's differences among us.
Tonight, we tip our hat to the Chicago Teachers Union and Secretary of State Alexi Giannoulias. Giannoulias, rumored to have his eye on a run for Chicago mayor, did not score an endorsement for re-election from the teachers, who remain staunch supporters of Mayor Brandon Johnson. And as Greg Pratt of the Chicago Tribune points out, Giannoulias endorsed Patty Garcia to replace Chuy Garcia in Congress days after the CTU snubbed Garcia in their endorsements. CTU then posted a meme from the movie Mean Girls. Why are you so obsessed with me? Lots there. We tip our hat to all involved. And that is the point. I'm Taman Bradley. Before we go tonight, a reminder that the Democratic candidates for U.S. Senate will go head-to-head again next week in a debate right here at WGN. Join us Thursday, February 19th at 7 p.m. Good night.